Hello everyone. To further explain my website and to give an overview of my thesis, which is to significantly downsize our military and bring our troops back home to the US, I think coming out with a short video would be very helpful to my viewers. So, to start off, I'd like to start with a quick agenda. So first I'll talk about the history of our country. And history is so important because it helps us to explain where we are today militarily, and it helps us learn from our mistakes. I think it's also important to remember and learn from our founding fathers and what their vision for the country was. Next, I'll look at where we are today as a result of our wars. Then I'll go into the future, what we need to do to fix our military. So to start off with history, Washington warned against two things. The first, although it was really too late, was the destructive nature of political parties. As we know today, political parties have been stronger than ever. The second was the danger of foreign alliances. He warned neither to favor one nation too highly over another and not to ally with others in foreign wars. For the next century, while the United States did not steer perfectly clear from foreign alliances and issues, it did adhere to neutrality and as the major part of its foreign policy. In the Constitution, the Founding Fathers understood the importance of a naval force, but not for standing armies. In Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, Congress was granted the authority to raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money should be used for longer than 2 years. Maintaining a standing army was very worrisome for the Founding Fathers. They were afraid of the military infringing on the people's rights, but they were also concerned with the cost of maintaining an army and the possible alliances with foreign powers, which may lead us into wars. The Constitution did include Congress's right to provide and maintain a navy. They saw a navy as necessary at all times to preserve commerce. Thus, a navy is necessary at all times, but not a standing army. Of course, times have changed since the founding of our country, but I believe the Founding Fathers would have been appalled at the size and waste of our standing armies today. Despite the Spanish-American War, the U.S. remained neutral in foreign policy until World War I. The country stayed out of the war for several years, but on April 6, 1917, the U.S. declared war on Germany. In just over a year, the U.S. suffered over 110,000 deaths and witnessed firsthand the brutality of modern warfare. The trenches bred vast sicknesses, and the invention of the machine gun, along with chemical warfare, wiped out a generation of young men throughout Europe. After World War I, the U.S. realized it is better to stay out of European affairs. And as Hitler was devastating Europe and Japan was conquering vast portions of Asia, Congress was very weary of war. It was not until we were bombed in Pearl Harbor did we realize war was inevitable. Before we even joined the war, the U.S. supplied Great Britain with weapons and money to fund the war against Germany. In turn, the British shared its advanced technology in what was known as the Tizard mission. Due to the stresses of war, Britain was not able to manufacture much of its technology, so they shared it with the U.S. Some of this technology included radars, the VT fuse, details on the jet engine, the feasibility of an atomic bomb, various other technologies such as rockets, superchargers, gyroscopic gun sights, submarine detection devices, self-sealing fuel tanks, and plastic explosives. At the end of World War II, the U.S. moved out of the Great Depression and developed the world's largest military. Since then, our military has forever been changed, and our foreign policy has forever been changed. The Cold War soon ensued, and we raced to develop technology to defend against Russian intelligence and the spread of communism, as well as our race to space against Russia. Our technology advances boomed, but our irrational fears grew. The U.S. maintained the largest army in the world, and Congress was jumping at the bit to use it, and they did use it. We went into Korea to repel communism, which left over 50,000 U.S. soldiers dead and tens of thousands wounded. A decade later, we invaded Vietnam, an example of how we did not learn from the Korean War. This war was devastating to an entire generation, both those who fought and those at home. Then, in 1991, the U.S. stationed troops in Saudi Arabia during the Gulf War, in the Muslim Holy Land, which turned bin Laden against the U.S. and eventually led to 9/11. Now, this isn't to say that, where the U.S. is directly responsible for 9/11. No, Bin Laden's a nut job and decided to, hurt innocent Americans. But the premise, what turned Bin Laden from hating the Russians to then hating the U.S. was our foreign involvement, was stationing our military in places that we really shouldn't have been in. Then the U.S. retaliated and bombs Afghanistan after 9/11. And we then shortly after that we take bogus intelligence with a Congress itching for war, which led to a full-scale invasion of Iraq, which posed no formidable threat to the U.S. The death toll includes over 6,800 troops between Afghanistan and Iraq. And now ISIS has taken over large tracts of Iraq and Syria because the Iraqi army is weak and cowardly and not willing to fight for its home. So today, we have spent and owe over $800 billion on the two wars. And this doesn't count the interest and future benefits, including health care for our veterans, which is estimated to cost us around $6 trillion. The VA is vastly mismanaged and underfunded, and our veterans are committing suicide at the highest rates ever seen before. And still, we continue to place troops around the world in wealthy nations. This makes total sense. Protect Germany. Spend U.S. tax dollars while German companies compete with American businesses. Currently, we have over 50,000 troops in Germany. It just doesn't make any sense. The U.S. taxpayer pays for troops stationed in wealthy countries such as Germany, France, Japan. And what do we get in return? We get nothing. We station our troops, and then these countries are able to spend more money and give further tax subsidies and things of that nature, which then grows their businesses, which then compete with American businesses. So we're literally fighting against ourselves here. So what do we need to do in the future? We need to decrease our military by 60%. We need to keep a strong, light force of elite soldiers to deploy in tactical missions in order to keep U.S. citizens safe. But there's no need to maintain a massive standing military with over 1 million troops. We must keep a navy, but decrease the amount of active carriers and total sailors. Since our military is actually bigger than the next 5 largest militaries combined. We don't need the massive amounts of troops that we have. We also don't need we have something like 11 aircraft carriers. The next country that has the most aircraft carriers is China with 2. So what do we need an extra 9 aircraft carriers for? Just doesn't make sense. And by decreasing our military by 60%, we'll save the average family $4,100 per year. This is a substantial savings that a middle class income family could really use in this bad economy. So put some of the funds that we spend on the military towards the veterans that are home, that are sick and not being cared for, because they deserve better care. Thank you very much.